building up our mitre box. We're going to leave the spline out for simplicity in terms of creating our design. So the first thing we're going to do before we even build up here is we're going to add some variables. So this allows us to adjust very easily the size of the box. So we're going to go through and start with the width. We're going to add in the material thickness. We're going to add in the height, the depth, and the lid depth. Okay, so with those, we should be able to vary most of the key things that we'll be building up. We're going to leave the splines out at this point, and we will add them in physically later. So I'm going to go in and add our material. So we're going to start with our 8mm material. We're going to go width. We're going to start with about, let's say, 120. Height, let's go 80, and we can always adjust these as we go through. Actually, width, let's go a little bit longer. 80, and depth, let's go 120. Okay, lid depth, let's go 25, and then we'll see how it goes after we start building it. So the first thing we're going to do is going to go onto the top plane and add a new sketch. So I'm going to type N to bring to the normal view for that. And I'm going to then add in a corner point rectangle. So I'm going to bring that in here. And the only issue that we have when we're trying to add in a variable instead of just typing in a number here is I need to type in a number first so that I get the text box to be able to go in for my width. I hit enter. And then I can, if I start typing a letter, it doesn't recognize. So I need to type a number, remove that, and that's going to be my depth. Okay, enter to select it as a variable, and then enter to select that one. So I've got my outline border. I'm going to now make an offset or do another rectangle again. Either one will do the same thing. But I'm going to hit D for dimension now, which you can see that's selected. And I'm going to go and make the thickness between these guys now the material thickness. So that's now set, and I need to do the same thing on that side. So offset may have been easier, but we will do the same thing. So now that's all locked in. That's going to be the outside thickness of our space. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add our corner angles. So just join those up. You can see that it's all gone black, which is really good. So now we've got that set up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in two of the sides. So I'm going to go Shift E to extrude, and I'm only going to do one edge at the moment. So I'm going to then just choose one edge, and I'm going to go tick on that. So that's now my first edge, but I made it the wrong height. So I'm going to make this symmetric. So I'm going to check that box so you can see it goes both ways from there. So that becomes the center of it. And then I'm going to add in the depth to be our height. Select that, hit enter, enter, and then there's my first piece. So that one there is going to be my side or short side. Okay, so from there, what I need to be able to do is add in my next side. So I'm going to show that sketch again, and I'm going to pick one of the front edges. So I'm going to go my extrude again. I'm going to choose that face, but I'm going to make sure that I've gone new, so a new piece starts up. Do the same thing, symmetric, and then I'm going to go through and make that my height. So now I have my two sides at the moment. So my long side and my short side. All right, from there, what I need to do for both of them is set in the grooves that are going to be there for our top and our bottom. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the, actually we might add in our sketch onto the right plane, okay, and normal 2. And then that's going to allow me to draw in a rectangle that's going to be the cutout here. So I'm going to just draw, I'm going to use the other type of rectangle, so the corner rectangle, and I'm going to bring that through here. So what we can do here is this length here is going to be our depth of our channel depth. And at the moment I'm going to make that about 4 millimeters. Okay, and then what we'll do, well, let's make that, call that the router depth. Router width. And then our router depth. And at the moment, we're going to do the same thing as that. So we can then adjust those as we go. So now if I go back to my dimension, so this is going to be my, that wants to be 4 mils. We're going to go dimension for that one. So that's my router width. And then down here, router depth. Yeah, it's not happy with that D over there. That wants to be a 4. All right, now I should be able to select that. There he is. So depth. Okay, so depending on what router we use, we might need to adjust that to be a little bit different. But what we can do now is I'm going to hit I for the coincident and make that line up there. And then I'm going to go dimension from that edge up to here, which is going to be the material thickness. So whatever we do, we've got our 8 mils at the moment. If that changes, we can adjust how that works. Now, one of the reasons of doing this with the center is now I can mirror that down to the bottom. So I've got both pieces with that there. So now I'm going to extrude that. So Shift E, I'm going to change that to being remove. And I'm going to make that symmetric again. So it goes both ways. And then what we're going to do is go all the way through. So it cuts that whole piece. So now I've got the 2 channels that we're going to have to router out of this. And then I'm going to do the same thing to this. So to make this a bit easier, we're going to go right click on that. We're going to go copy sketch. And we're going to go to a new sketch on the front plane because we're going to do the same thing now to this side. So now I should be able to go paste and I'm going to move that so he's down around here somewhere. So now I've got those dimensions there now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go I, so coincident, so that one to there, that one to there, because they're not mirrored now, we just copy the whole sketch. And I'm going to make these symmetric. So symmetric allows me to choose one edge, the other edge that I want to be symmetric, and then the line of symmetry. Okay, so they should now be only allowed to be able to move up and down from here. So it won't let me move them otherwise. Okay, so I'm going to make that one E with that one, so equal, that one E with that one. So there, now if I hover over those, you can see I've got that equal and symmetric set for that. So I can't move those. Oh, and you can see we need a couple more things on that. So that one wants to be horizontal. And then that one wants to be vertical. All right, from there, the last dimension I need to add on is going to be that one up to the top, and that wants to be our material thickness. So now that's fixed in, that's looking good. What we want to be able to do from here is I'm going to extrude again. Symmetric, remove, and then through all. So now that's cut out, and I have both my top and my side piece ready to go. So what I need to do now is I need to create my top and bottom piece. Now I'm going to do that in a portion, and then I'm going to mirror that out. So let's start. I'm going to make a new sketch, and where I want that to be is going to be on that base there. So I'm going to now create a corner rectangle from that point through so that it lines up with that edge. I'm going to go N to go normal to, and I'm going to go I coincident to take that one to there. So I've now got half of it. I actually only want a quarter of it. So I'm going to go all the way through to that. And I can M, so M is trim, cut those ones out. So I've just got a quarter for the moment, and then we'll work from there. So what we're going to do now is go Shift E, and we're going to bring that up our material thickness, and that looks good. We could try intersect, but we're not going to play with that, so we're just going to make a new one here, and we'll do a boolean after that. So that's now, we're creating a new, hit tick on that, and that's going to be my top or base. So the thing that I need to do with that now is, you can see that it's intersecting with that. If I use the boolean, I want to be able to subtract. The tool's going to be those two, and the target is this top new piece. So you can see now that's been cut out, and I want to keep the tools because I don't want to lose those sides, and I'm going to hit tick. So now if I hide the side, you can see I've got that little cutout of what we need for the top based on what we have cut out over here. So that's looking good. All I need to do now is duplicate this out. So I'm going to use my mirror, and I want to mirror my top piece. The mirror plane, in this case, I'm going to start with that one, which then goes across. What you need to make sure you do here is we go to add, not just new, otherwise we're going to end up with 4 little pieces. So merge scope is part 3. When I hit tick on that, I now have a full size half of that. I'll do that once more, and I have that plane to use now. My entities is that one, and I want to add that to this part here. So now I have my 3 different pieces that I'm going to be using. The last thing I need to do is add in my cut for the lid. So if I come up, I'm going to add a plane. So it's going to go an offset plane. So you see some different options here. I want offset from this top face here. And we're going to reverse it so it comes down, and instead of the offset distance being 25, we're going to use that lid depth. And go tick on that. So now I've got that plane there. So if I decide actually I only want it 20, that will change automatically. Same deal, if I go actually I want that to be 180, that will adjust as I go as well. So that is a nice way to work with it. So now I've got the pieces. The last thing I need to do is make that cut through the middle. And I'm going to rename that. That's going to be my top face. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to cut, which is the split. So what I want to use to surfaces or parts to split is going to be those two side faces. And entity split width is going to be that plane. So now you can see that I've got that cut and it's now split each of those through. So what I want to be able to do with that is that short side is going to be, there's my lid. So rename that short side lid. Long side is the bottom, and then long side, rename that to be the lid. So now I've got all the pieces I need. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them over to my assembly now. Now, if you want to change the colors so they look a little bit more like wood, I can select all of those faces, right click on that and go edit appearance. And we're just going to change those so that they are closer to a bit of a, let's go slightly darker brown. Okay, and I can hit tick on that. You can change your own colors, but now they've all kind of look about what they would if we were using Jarrah or something like that. I'm going to go now over to my assembly. This one here gives me the option to be able to insert my pieces. So I'm going to go all of those pieces, but I also need a second one of everything. So now I have all of those pieces in there ready to go, and I can move those around where I want to. So I'm going to just drag those extra pieces out of the way. And what you'll notice is we can rotate pieces as we go. So I've got those two that want to be over here. So I'm going to select both of those and I'm going to rotate them 180 degrees so they're turning the right way. I'm going to do the same thing for this one, and we're going to rotate that 180 degrees, and then I'll rotate that 180 degrees. I probably don't want to go that way. Let's go undo that, Control Z, and go that one. So they spin around the right way. Okay, what we want to do next, it doesn't need to be exact, it'll be about there. All right, so what I want to do next is we're going to mate these in place. So using the fasten mate, I'm going to go in and add a mate onto the top pieces. So I'm going to use the center of that face with the center of that face. So that little one there allows me to hit tick, and then I'm going to rinse and repeat. So that one goes on that face. Hit tick, and then that jumps there, and then I only need to do one more with that one. And where's he? I need that face there. So tick, and now I've got that top piece ready to go. We're going to grab that top edge there, and that's going to go in. Oh no, I don't want that one. I need the bottom one. So that edge there. So when we actually do this in real life, they're going to all glue together. But right now we're just going to fix them. So that now gives me my top piece ready to go. What we'll do next is add these pieces together. So again, find the center of that, add him to that, hit tick, and we just continue and repeat the same thing for each part. Tick, and then last one for the edges, tick, and then they jump back together, and then we're going to add this guy in as well. So we're going to use that, just recognize which way it's connected, and then that's going to go through in there. Okay, you can always, if you get it wrong, undo it. Now what I'm going to do on the last one, just so that I can keep it in one place, I'm going to put it onto that origin. Just make sure you've got the little axis there set up the right way, and we're going to add a revolute on the side here so that we can, and actually I don't want to do it on that side because I want it on the back edge. We're going to do that on that outside edge and that outside edge. So now, having a look from the front, I can open and close it. Okay, so there's my box ready to go. In real life, we'll have the option of adding some splines to the edge. We're not going to do that in this diagram because it's not important for the dimensions. We can add in a little lip on the inside so it sort of just slides on. We could add little cutouts on the edges here to have hinges, or we could add an insert box if we leave the splines there, so we can actually have a inset that steps in and out as well. But we've got the basics of our box at the moment. So last thing we want to probably do is get our working drawings. So we're going to start with our Part Studio if we ever need to adjust the sizes, but we're going to leave those as they are, and we're going to add in a drawing. So this one here, if you go into the GDS Paint group, you'll see we have a drawing template. I want you to use that. So that is set up with the right dimensions and orientations for what we require, and we're going to go through and build this up. So an orthographic drawing is the key one for us to be able to know the dimensions and work with that. So the first one we're going to do is just going to be a overall view. So I'm going to grab the assembly, and we're always going to be our front, side, so the front is in the bottom left, top, and then an isometric. What we're going to go back and do is probably close that or change that to being a 90 degree. Otherwise it's going to be tricky for dimensions. So we've got that. I'm going to hit escape so I can now go and make that a shaded view. So we can see what it looks like. We can then see how they're connected, which is really helpful. So overall dimensions is probably what we want to have a look at here. We could add in, let's see what happens if I go the hidden lines on this and see if that makes it too busy. It's probably not super helpful in the circumstance that we have. And what I'm going to do is just add the overall dimensions. So we know that that's going to be our front view. We've got our side view and our top view there. Okay, so every isometric drawing needs the labels, and then what we also want to do is add the overall dimensions for it. So what we'll do there is we're going to add in our dimensions, which is this guy here. So I'm just going to go the overall dimensions, which is going to be top, and it's not going to, so what we might do is close that lid for this, otherwise it's going to be tricky to show that full height. So we won't be able to get that anywhere. So come back over to your assembly, and we're going to close that all back to where it needs to be. We can add constraints to that. I was going to try and avoid that. So there's our box. Now if you notice, we come back over here, it's got some adjustments. So let's do that. And it will then update any changes that have happened to our drawing so that we can then continue with what we're doing. So we have our 80, and then we've got the height of that. And then the last one we'll need will be that one there. Now we could have a look with that. It might be useful to show the thickness of the material. But for an overall starting point, that's not a bad place. I'm going to then come over to the sheets and add one more so I can get a little bit more specifics for the individual parts. So I'm going to now go insert, and I want to insert again a different piece. So I'm going to go the long side. And I'm going to have a look at where I probably want to go the back view of this piece so that I get the details on it. I'm going to insert at the same time my long side lid. And again, I want the back to that as well. So they're going to be there. And what I can do then is show my pieces from there, and we'll stretch those out as we go. So we can actually get the view of how they're going to be. All right, so I've got, and I'm just going to bring those out a little bit. So we've got the top, and I need another top for that one. So we can see as we go, we can add our dimensions. Add the thickness. We can put on angles. Lengths of each of the bits as we go. So we can be really clear with what we need to do for each of the parts that we have. So we've got, again, thinking about what is the information that you're going to need when you go to make this yourself. That's what we want to be able to add in as we go. And what we should see is both of those will be the same, so I'm not going to add that. Again, so we can see that the top and the bottom is the same. It just gives us the vision of how that needs to look. Now I should be able to potentially add my lid piece on here as well. So you've got all of the information that you need in one spot. Okay, and let's go add in our last piece, which is going to be the top. Okay, and if we go top there, we get a side, and we might even be able to get the isometric in there as well. Okay, so then what we can do is we will label these up and finish those dimensions as well. So overall thickness of each of those. We can then get that lip, and we can see that connection between each of the things that we're doing. Oh, come on. And you can see it sort of plays when you start moving around a little bit. So they're probably the key dimensions that we need for that, and then you can start working through from that. But I'm just going to add in, so this is our long edge. There's my front, top, and obviously I'm missing my short edge here as well, which we probably need to add as well. But you can see the process that we've gone through. you might then simplify this a little bit if you think you don't need the extra information, but we want to be able to know what the dimensions are, what we need to cut so that we can go through and build that. So I'm going to leave that there. You can add in your last piece, and obviously if we have our label down here, make sure that's your name, and these are piece dimensions. All right, so that's looking pretty good. If you want to go a little bit further, we could actually add in a bill of materials. So let's add that on the front page here. And what that means is it gives us a number of, so we've got flattened top to bottom in that corner there. Now, what we have at the moment is unhelpful because that doesn't mean anything. But if we come over to our part assembly, there is an option for the bill of materials table. So we can then add in what we want to have as the columns. So for us, the name's going to be useful. So we have a look at what that is. That is the name of the piece. We're going to remove the part number. We can pinch that in a little bit, and we're going to move that right. So the description you could add in as the length of the pieces if you needed to, or what material you're making it out of. I'm going to leave it just blank for the moment. So if we come back over here, we'll see we've got some updates, and we can update that through. So there it is. So now if I bring that across, we've got enough space. I'm going to bring that down there. So we've got that ready to go with the overall dimensions and what we have. So you could add in what you wanted as the label or overview of that. So remember, whatever you do for your piece here, it needs to be useful for when you need to refer back to it when you're designing and actually making it. Good luck.